Hi, and welcome to Film Trooper Presents Film Marketing Fridays. And today is August 22nd. And I'm your host, Scott McMahon. And yeah, this one is a little bit more impromptu. In fact, as you can see, I have kind of a bare, there's no books behind me. So my family and I have been pretty busy getting ready for this move. So this will be the last time you see this background. And then moving forward, it'd be a different setup, which would be nice to finally get settled into a new place. And yeah, so that's why you see this. And if you hear a little bit of an echo in the mic, it's because when you remove everything in a room, the sound just has that echo because it's a straight bounce off the wall, and there's nothing to absorb it, except for I have these little pillows for my daughter's room that seem to soften the sound. Yeah, so I just want to get into this. Is actually really, really impromptu, today's session. Last week, a couple of weeks ago, man, I think what, week and a half, there was an article in Forbes magazine, or Forbes.com, from Schuler M. Moore, who's one of the most prominent entertainment lawyers for years in Hollywood. And he wrote a blog post that said, Netflix will cause the implosion of foreign pre-sales. And I tend to agree. We're very, very curious about that, of whether or not that will actually happen. And it was kind of a good discussion. I was reading a lot of stuff on Facebook, on Google Plus, on Twitter, and it was just really neat to hear people's opinions in the comments section. And I had a really good dialogue with certain filmmakers online as well, just sort of open to discussion of the realities of this. So let me just show you kind of like what my thoughts are in that process and what that means in terms of film marketing, independent filmmakers, and whatnot. So we'll click over here to the screen share. So when it says what is the implosion of pre-sales, um, again, the headline was like, "Will Netflix will cause the implosion of foreign pre-sales?" And this is the link that you can grab, and we'll jump over here to the actual site, so just so you can actually see the actual article. And a lot of cumbersome as I have to flip through here. Okay, so screen share again. We go to screen share. Oh, it's me. So back to the screen that I'm going to show you. Yeah, so what you can see, this is Mr. Schuler Moore and his article, Netflix will rip the heart out of pre-sale film financing. So it may not necessarily be the implosion, but that's a pretty good, effective title, isn't it? Rip the heart out of pre-sale. And when you get a chance, you can read the article. But I think the important thing here is the concept of understanding what is foreign pre-sale. How does that work with independent film, especially for micro budget film, or just in general, um, what what impact this will have. So as we jump back to me, back to screen share, there's got to be a more efficient way of doing this. So let's see here. So yeah, let's ask the question, what are pre-sales to begin with? So if you think about pre-sales in terms of independent film, let's start with the Hollywood studios, because that's all we kind of know about. There's what I think there's like 6 major studios, and they own everything, right? I mean, there's Disney, there's Fox, or 20th Century Fox Corporation, there's Warner Brothers, there's Sony, and there's Viacom. Owns Paramount and whatnot. And I think that's it. 5. Maybe I'm missing something. If I probably am. I know there's a 6th one out there. Um, you know. So anyhow, so their whole world is, this is sort of like the elite 1%. Even though we're talking about 5 to 6 major studios that are responsible for like 90% of the entertainment or media or movies that we see and goes to. So this is kind of like the elite 1%. And I wrote an article for Ted Hope's blog site, truly film, truly free film. I can't even speak. Very tired from all this moving. So you can check that out at this link, and it kind of goes in a little bit more about this unusual sort of universal law of the 1%. But it's good to understand what necessary that means and how you fit into all that stuff. So they are responsible for the mass audience appeal. So their financing, the way they handle things is there's like a mass, corporation, publicly, traded. They have, X amount of, budget to use per year to produce, I think, only a handful of films. It used to be like something like 50, each studio was producing 50, 75 films per year. And then all of a sudden, with so many changes since the economic downturn, they reduced the number of titles they put out there in the theaters to something like 25. And of those 25 or something like that, majority of the films they were going to put out focus on stars that were 25 years and younger. So, yes, we might see a film by, Johnny Depp or Brad Pitt or, very anomaly, somebody like Sandra Bullock. They represent like, you know, even less than 1% of all those working actors that used to be stars or stars that we're familiar with or name actors. Now they have to be relegated to the film market. So as I go back here, I'm gonna have to do something funny in this one. So I have two screens here. Okay. Whoops. There we go. Let me here. It's a little cumbersome. Yeah, I'm gonna exit that. Okay. So I'll finish up the slides part of it and just sort of go into a rough a discussion. The concept is that we have the Hollywood studios, and unfortunately, that's sort of what a lot of the press is all revolves around in terms of how they do their business. It's the glamour business, we follow the stars, we follow the directors. It's like, we all want to work in that sort of industry. And obviously, television, the amount of amazing work coming out of all different factors of television, and now it's not even television anymore. It's Netflix. It's Amazon getting into the game. This concept of very long form, serialized entertainment is really striking a chord with a lot of people because you can get really niche down and find very unique, compelling stories that way, as opposed to the Cineplex standard, 2 hour and a half movie that was designed to pump people, get people in and out of the theater as quickly as possible. Like, you work in a restaurant, you're trying to turn tables as quickly as possible because you can make more money. If people sit and linger at the dinner table for too long, you're losing money when they're not paying for any more. They're just like sucking up time. So that's why sometimes you get those restaurants that just kind of get that vibe that like they want you out of there. Like before you even finish eating, there's a check that comes to your table, so it kind of bums out the experience. Well, the same kind of thing for the Cinemaplexes. When you have like a 3 hour movie, like a Lord of the Rings movie, you could fill that theater space twice with a comedy or something like that that's running at 90 minutes each. So anyhow, so that's just a tangent there. That's the world of Hollywood we follow, and then there's those of us who follow the independent film world. Those who are aspiring independent filmmakers, and we are looking to other sort of forms of economics to follow. Because right now we with our concept is like, okay, let's go to film school, let's learn our craft, and then let's go ahead and see if we can't be that lucky 1% that gets to play in the studio system that gets our film picked up, and we get a chance to direct the next Star Wars film, like Mr. Rian Johnson. It's kind of a dream come true. USC grad makes it in his independent film, and he builds up a body of work, and next thing you know, he's in line to direct one of the Star Wars films. So those are the dreams. Those are like the what are the gold, the brass ring, or the dangling carrot that we all are aspiring to try to grab, or at least that's what fills our dreams of having that opportunity. But then there's a sort of like the film festival circuit, where we get to see sort of like this highbrow or artsy films that are unique films or foreign films that we're not accustomed to getting a chance to see in the regular cinema. And those who break through find a unique following because they broke through the noise, and so they become like sort of the independent darlings. And the one in Sundance right now, you got to forgive me, I forget the one with the the comedian who's doing it's like a kind of a tongue-in-cheek approach to abortion or something. Get it for somebody type in the question Q&A because I know it's butchering it, but I should probably just look it up in Google. But anyhow, something like that, a film like that will break through and catch the attention of the independent blog sphere and the press and so on, and so that becomes sort of like an independent darling. Now, the world of like film markets, since the American film market is coming up in Los Angeles or Santa Monica specifically in November, it's fascinating to walk along those hallways to see really what's going on because those are the same buyers and sellers of films that attend the Cannes film market and I think the European film market or it's a Berlin film market or something like that. But what's interesting about that is the type of films they are buying and selling are not necessarily the films that you see a lot of press about. They're not part of like the IndieWire, blogosphere. They're not part of like, maybe some other blogs or publications you follow. Um, they literally are like some stars that you kind of know about, but you look at a film like I never knew they did a film like that, but there's like really three main genres that sell well universally, which are horror, action, and family. Um, Reason being is that you don't necessarily need a lot of dialogue. I mean, it's very visual. Action is very visual. Horror films, scary films is a very primal reaction, emotional reaction that anybody around the world can relate to. What's difficult are dramas because apparently each each region, each country prefers to tap into their own regional dramas. They're not necessarily interested in watching like an American drama when they can, watch something from their country of Singapore or India and whatnot. Comedies don't do well, especially American comedies. The language barrier, the inside jokes, the references, and that kind of stuff don't travel well overseas, unless you're somebody like Rowan Atkinson, who's doesn't speak and is all physical comedy. Anybody who has a lot of physical comedy and speaks very very little will do very well overseas or universally because pratfalls and physical comedy is a universal language that people could understand. So in that world, that's the world that Schuler and Moore is talking about in terms of how Netflix will, rip the heart out of the pre-sales. So so let me see if I can kind of type something up here real quick. So yeah, you'll see my head kind of go this way. I actually didn't have time with all this moving and stuff that I didn't write this up early enough. So the way the pre-sales works in terms of the other faction of the world of film. So we have the Hollywood studios have their own world. They have their own economics of how things get made and make money. You have the film festival darlings, of sort of that has the press that follows that. The few level A um, festivals, and there's like the tier 2, tier 3 festivals. And then there's the world of the film markets, which is the really dealing with the international sales of how certain films travel to different markets, and which is you will hear about, buyouts of that deal with TV rights and film rights and all that kind of stuff, and which is why those genre films do well and they do consistently overseas in those three specific genres. So the way the pre-sales works for that is that if you're a producer, and really the best person, one of the best resources to go to for this type of stuff is at filmspecific.com with Stacey Parks. Being that she's, a former sales agent herself, has been in the business for a long time and has done, for almost 8 years, I think now, has done a really great job of trying to help independent filmmakers navigate those waters. So I would recommend definitely checking out that resource if you don't know about it. I mean, um, so the way it works, like, ideally, is that you have a project and you've done your due diligence and say, okay, I got one of the three genres. It's going to be a horror film, action film, or a family film. So let's say we're doing an action film and we got an action star. Well, you kind of have to do your analysis, like, I'm putting together this package. I've got this action movie. This director is, well known in the action genre, and we have a star that is attached to the project. And so what we needed to do is take that package to see whether or not we can get basically a promise note from various international distribution companies to get a pre-sale, to get this promise that this says, hey, if you bring that package together and you finish this film for this budget you're saying that you're going to finish it for, the different various entities that deal with foreign pre-sales, promise notes, will give you that money. So say you were trying to make a film for, $3 million. That's your budget. And then the foreign pre-sales say, yeah, I can give you two, like 2.5 million. I think with your package, with the director, the actor, the genre, the script, we can get you 2.5 million promise notes that I can sell to the different foreign territories. So then you take this promise note, or this pre-sales, this sort of a general agreement. Um, Again, I'm sort of just overgeneralizing this, but this is the way how it kind of works in the film market world, is that you take that to a bank, and a certain bank that specializes in giving loans to independent film producers, and then they check it out that says, yes, you have all these elements in place. You have your director, you have your actor, you have your genre, you have your script, and you have an agreement or a promise note from these international sales companies. Then we will match that loan of 2.5 million, that promise. We'll give you that loan because we know that if you've got this promise that they're going to pay for it, that we'll get our money back plus whatever interest. So boom, you get a loan for 2.5 million to make your film. But say you already did it, but you said you had a budget of 3 million. So how do you? Oh, hey, we got a question here. Let's see here. Scott, what kind of films you made? Any big projects? Oh, here. Drive Zone TV. So I'm going to answer this question real quick. There's asking any films that I worked on, big projects. I was for the first 12 years of my career, I actually ran the cinematic department for Sony PlayStation. So I played in that world in terms of producing visual effects and large scale sort of, fantasy type stuff for PlayStation. And then venturing into developing the independent film world during just kind of as the economy was crashing. This is all how Film Troopers sort of all started from this, is that that's how I learned about all this stuff and navigating the waters and spending time in Los Angeles at that point. So that's just real quick to answer that question from Drive Zone TV. So anyhow, real quick, so what you do is, again, you've got your package. You got a $3 million budget, and you got a pre-sales promise note to say they'll give you 2.5 million. You get that matched by a bank that will give you the loan for 2.5 million. So where do you come up with the other 500,000? That's why a lot of producers will go to a state that is friendly for tax incentives. Somebody's going to get a rebate, so you film in that specific state, and you do your due diligence to do your accounting correctly to make sure you get that 500,000, even maybe $1 million worth back in tax incentives. So you cover your budget plus more. So you make your film, you deliver on the promise, you give it back to you sell it to the international buyers. They give you that 2.5 million, you give that to the bank, you get your tax pre-sales, or all that, those benefits. You come back in, you've covered your bases, and that's it. It doesn't really necessarily matter if your film does well or not, or if it gets known by the press or anything like that. If you have accurately built a film project where you put all these elements in place and you were able to secure that, what happens is that everybody who works on that project gets their fee, meaning that a lot of people probably won't see the back end. The film may not even do that well once you hand it over, depending on the rights and so on, to the foreign markets, how they go about packaging it with some other films. Then you can. I'm sorry, I lost track. I saw something here. Oh, I'm going to answer this question here in a second. So that is sort of the basic sort of premise of how an independent producer will navigate the waters of the film market. And again, this is outside of the world of the Hollywood studios. The Hollywood studios has their own economics, they have their own way of making money and selling things. The independent world has a different way, which is like if you're utilizing the film markets, if you're utilizing the foreign pre-sales, um, that's how they basically make these 3 million, 5 million, $10 million type films independently. And then the rest of us, maybe like 99% of the rest of, or 90% of the rest of the independent filmmakers are all scrapping in terms of I got equipment, I've done private equity, I've raised money on the crowdfunding, anything I can to like get the film done. That part, I think that pretty much represents about maybe 90%. I don't have any accurate measurements, but the way the 1% rule works out, you can kind of see that happening. Now, take a quick second here. Let me just read this question coming in. Oh, hey, Drive Zone TV. I don't know Alessandro, but yeah, I'll follow up with you guys here in a little bit. Very, very cool. Um, Following up with the article by Schuler and Moore that says, um, Netflix is going to rip the heart out of these pre-sales. So what does that mean? So what it means is that if Netflix can continue expanding their market outside of the North America, and they go into other foreign territories, and they set up shop, and over time, the customer base and the user experience of foreign customers begin to are able to have the same experience that we do, and when we watch Netflix in terms of the television shows, like everything on demand. Maybe the selection is not 100% there sometimes, but it might be a different experience for those in the foreign world. Because here's the thing is the question it really is like, what is the purpose of those foreign distributors or sales agents when they're buying films or giving promise notes which they think they can sell to different territories here and there? If something like an entity like Netflix comes in and they have a different way of acquiring media and content to display and share out to their subscribers. I mean, their whole world of Netflix is simply curating as much content as possible, and then also developing original content to provide content to a subscriber list. I mean, it's just like magazines, back in the day, or newspapers that had so much power. Citizen Kane is based off William Hearst in terms of the newspaper empire. Anybody can control media and control a large subscriber base, has a lot of power and a lot of say. And I wouldn't put past Netflix to be successful in the foreign territories because it's been successful here in North America, and they'll get better at it. So what that means for the independent film producer is if you can't secure like that promise note, how are you going to pay for your film? How are you going to bring any sort of collateral or to the bank to get your loan to make your film? So that's why it's very interesting and maybe scary in terms of the old ways of doing things, because the technology and something like Netflix will come in and just sort of level the playing field. And so that's sort of something to look out for. Now, let's talk about the rest of like the world in terms of independent filmmakers, like the real indie that are jumping onto crowdfunding. And I had this other conversation 2 Fridays ago with Jennifer Fisher of Think Tan Media Group. As we got, after we kind of hung up, we were kind of continuing the conversation. There's something to be said about if uber independent filmmakers cannot sell their film at like $5 a pop, $10 a pop. If you're renting your film for $2.99 or $4.99, or you're trying to sell it for $19.99, that kind of stuff. You have to push a lot of units to make your money back, or to even compete to what the numbers are that we constantly get bombarded by, like Box Office Mojo and stuff like that. And all the box office returns, because we're seeing sort of Hollywood numbers, but not necessarily the uber independent film numbers, and how to make that make sense, and how do you make a sustainable living from that. So here's just an idea, something to think about. like we as consumers, we don't really think too much about maybe spending $20 to $30 on a book, even an ebook. You know, a book comes out, no problem, 20, 30. So, say you sell whatever, 1,000 units of that. Here, look at me. I'm gonna look at the calculator because I can't do math, even though I'm half Asian. Okay, here we go. Um, so say you sell a book for like $30 a pop, and say you sell that, 1,000 transactions, 1,000 sales. Doesn't sound like a lot. Not a lot of box office there. But you make $30,000. You know, in terms of the world of your film, you're probably thinking $30,000. My film costs like 500,000 to make. Well, I think you gotta whatever you got to do, you got to try to make the film a lot less and try to make it so you can be profitable in that sense. So it'd be interesting to see. Um, oh, sorry. Hey, drives on TV in Germany. Okay, cool. I'm gonna follow up with you here in a sec. Um, so here's the thing. You can almost take your screenplay and make an ebook out of it, and then you use your movie as almost like a advertisement or book trailer for your book, or you bundle it. In the world of entrepreneurs and online business, they're all about like bundling things. So instead of just selling your movie for like $10 or $5 rental or something like that, we have to figure out a way to increase the value and the price of our independent body of work so that we're getting somewhere near that we're selling our package for $100, a bundle. So what does that $100 include? Because if we're not going to get the same high volume transactions like the Hollywood studios that we follow, and we're not going to get, how many. I have to look up here because again, sorry, I'm just kind of winging this right now. It's not, instead of like 100,000 transactions or 10,000 transactions, the uber indie film producer and filmmaker who's just, making something and putting it online and then doing their marketing and outreach that way, maybe get a couple hundred transactions. If you can get 1,000 transactions, so that's what your kind of goal is, because it's that old Kevin Kelly blog post, 1,000 true fans. If you get 1,000 true fans that are going to give you $100 a year, that is basically, 100 times 1,000, $100 times 1,000 is $100,000. So, can you make your film products very inexpensive, but can you raise the value of it? And can you, so when you're selling the package, maybe you're selling it, you're turning your script into an ebook. I've seen there's a lot of movement right now that people are turning their work into like a graphic novel. So now you've got an ebook, you've got a graphic novel, you've got the movie, and then some. But if you are targeting a very specific audience and customer base, then you have a really good chance of finding out what other value you can add to that. I just had a conversation with an independent filmmaker who made this. It looks like a really fun sort of throwback to the early '60s of hot rod cars and rock and roll, bebop, all kind of something that would definitely work very, very well in the vintage car enthusiast circles. So I could easily see him taking his film and bypassing all sort of realms of independent film media and blogs and just focusing on the blogs of and followers of vintage race cars or hot rod cars, and then going to those car shows and like setting up like a booth of the DVDs and just engaging with that audience and perhaps making a short documentary about selling the film or then talking about people's cars or something like that, and then you can take that as a side, movie or side video. It could be like 30 minutes long, but he could take his movie that he made, did that, and he can take like sort of the behind the scenes or focusing on certain cars that a lot of these car enthusiasts love, because he's got a lot of great cars in his film. So he kind of like maybe advertises that way. Then you can see him bundling something that together for maybe $50, or $40 or something. And so that's the kind of changes that we can make in terms of flipping things on its head, where it's like ask yourself like, well, what kind of value can I give to my very specific audience? And again, we're not working in the world of Hollywood. We're not working in the world of the pre-sales and film market world. We would be working in the world of supplying audiences with some value, and you have to figure out who that audience, what your audience is, and what what they would be willing to pay $100 for or $50 for, and how your film fits into that. Obviously, it's a lot more to that. I mean, there's a whole transmedia movement of how expand storytelling in different areas and different media. But if you can combine that world with the world of, say, like online business or online marketing, then you can get into the world of figuring out how to package and stack your products so you really do get this great value to your audience. And you, as a business person or a film producer in the uber indie world, can make a profit. Again, try to get 1,000 transactions at $100 a pop. So you have to ask yourself, okay, how do I reach and how do I sell to 1,000 people that are very specific, and what value can I create at $100 a pop? So that's a whole different way of thinking than just like, I got to make my movie and stick it on iTunes or Netflix and cross my fingers and I'm in the marketplace and somebody will discover me. Don't even think that way. Just let's think about, like, there's maybe a different metrics or different metrics of success for uber indie filmmakers, if excuse me, as we raise the price or raise the value of what we're making. So it's not, I don't think we can compete with Hollywood if we're competing at a price point of 99 cents, for a movie. Because again, you got to think about it. Like I said, people are more willing to spend $20 to $30 on an ebook, and then when you ask them to spend $20 to $30 on your movie, they're like, I'll wait till it's on Netflix, or if it's 99 cents, I'll rent it. So it's sort of like this mindset of like, it took so much more effort and so much more money to make a movie than it is to write its ebook. But it's interesting how people value that. So if you can kind of flip it on its head and say, well, if I package this thing, again, like this particular independent filmmaker I met with, they could take this film and do a lot with it in a very specific niche, and it might be something worth trying. I haven't tried it yet. It was just a discussion point that Jennifer Fisher and I had, and it was sort of in response later on to this article by Schuler M. Moore about what's going to happen to the international pre-sales business model of the film markets. It's going to be very interesting to see what changes in the next couple of years, if indeed Netflix has a successful run in different foreign territories. So how does that mean for us to survive? Well, again, I think just look at other different business models and kind of flip it on its head and see how we can approach it that way. So I don't want to, let me see, I'm going to check out this real quick. Drive Zone TV. Let me read these questions real quick. Yeah, here we go. Oh, here we go. They just wrote in, hey, we used to make car event DVDs with a budget around $300. Hotel and gas, plus around $400 DVD finishing, sold around 1,500 DVDs only over YouTube. DVD was like $18 each, shipping worldwide. So you can also make a huge win with only a low budget if the crowd knows that's the priority. Very good point. I hope I read that specific, if I read that clearly enough. That's great. I mean, that's pointing it out. I always get fired up about story filmmakers they're totally on the radar in terms of where the press is not finding them. Where they have made a film and it sold a lot of units and they made a lot of money, but you don't hear about it like in, like I said, IndieWire or Slate or anything like that, because it doesn't necessarily involve any sort of sexy director or actor or stuff like that. But whatever film was created meant a lot to that specific demographic. In this case, car events. There are a lot of car enthusiasts. There's another story of somebody making a great film, an interesting film, a documentary just for private air. I can't say pilots. Just flying their own planes. So that's a whole other world that just a specific film was made for that demographic. The ideal thing is to make a really cool film for a demographic or an audience that has a lot of money to spend or has the passion to spend. And they say car people are one of them. So making movies about a certain type of cars Look at Fast and Furious. I mean, that's the high level of it. Who's to say you can't do something on a small independent level? And obviously, it looks like Drive Zone TV does it. And they're based in Germany. And I met a lot of Germans who are just Europeans in general that just are huge car enthusiasts. Especially the Autobahn, in Germany. But there's also this sense that a lot of Europeans that come over to America, there's this fascination of the wide open space really fast, because when you're a lot of times you can't get that speed going in the vastness in Europe because it's a lot more condensed. So I don't know, side topic there. Let me see here. You can invite me. Oh, here, I can invite him. I'm gonna invite you to the conversation. Sorry. Wait. I'm trying to keep up here. Let's see here. Select. All right, let's see here. I'm gonna invite him. To the conversation. Drive Zone. Let me see this. Oh, there you are. Here we go. This is totally off the cuff. So I've just invited Drive Zone TV. That's the handle, the name in Google Plus, and they're in Germany, and they've been texting me. Hopefully, I can get them on here. We can wrap a little bit more. So, like I said, I will finish up this sort of PowerPoint, pseudo PowerPoint, and clean up everything kind of I was talking about, and offer that up a download on filmtrooper.com. And let's see here. If I'm not too sure if you'll see it come in. Oh my gosh. I don't know. Do you see my eyes? I mean, they're like red. I'm so tired from moving. We're doing like small piecemeals because we're just moving like 15 minutes over into another town, and gosh, it takes up a lot of energy. Anyhow, so let me ask here. If I don't see you come on, and I know you have a name besides Drive Zone TV, so I will. I'm gonna wrap this up here shortly, but let's talk. I'm gonna follow up with you here very shortly. You guys, you know what? I think that's it. I can't believe it's 40 minutes in. I can't believe I talked for 40 minutes. So hopefully you got some kind of nuggets out of this in terms of understanding the sort of the different tiers of the different worlds of filmmaking, or the film, the way the business works. Again, you have the studio system. They're the elite 1%. They've got their own way of working, and everybody's sort of working through that scarcity of that business model that's been created. So that's why we get sort of jaded and jealous. Oh, I try my best. 1 second. Okay, he's trying. I'm gonna try. I'll invite you again. See how that works. Uh, do, do, do. And and then we talked about the implosion or possible collapse of the foreign pre-sales, maybe over time, or there might be a massive change if Netflix indeed. Oh, there he is. Here we go. Hello, Drive Zone TV. I don't even know your first name. I see you coming up. Let me see here. Are you on mute? Am I on mute? Are you on mute? Oh, hey, there you are. I can
Hey,
see you. Let me see if I can hear you. Um,
you should hear me.
oh, there. Okay. Now I can really hold on. Okay, go ahead and say something.
Test,
Hi.
test.
I can hear you. Welcome to Film Marketing Fridays. First of all, let's do a quick introduction. All I see is that your name handle is Drive Zone TV, but what is your real name?
My real name is Alex. I'm from Germany, and yeah, the most time I do videos, it's only about car events, making some DVDs, and don't put it on a German level, so don't put it on a national level.
Yeah, definitely. How long you been making films yourself?
For 7 years now.
Oh, congratulations. So are you a big like car fan? Are you a fan yourself of like different types of cars, or you're a very specific type of cars?
Of course, that's why I started to make car videos because it's one of my passions to make videos and put it together with my car passion to make some special.
Yeah, definitely. Now, um, is there like a what type of is there a certain type of car? Do you like old vintage cars, or do you like newer like specific street type cars, or all kinds?
It's around all kinds. If they're good looking, uh, I like them on a way. It's you don't can. For example, if you put the Gone in 60 Seconds Mustang, it's a really very nice car. Also with, for example, the new BMW E8, it's also a nice car in a way.
Nice. And let me ask you, in your experience of making these videos and so on, how enthusiastic is your customers in terms, because I know car enthusiasts are very passionate about, that world. What's been your impression about that specific like customer base?
First of all, I started to go overseas, not only in Germany, so that also some people in America see the videos what I make. Um, but there was a shortcut when they travel around worldwide. So we sold the DVD, and the first orders from Asia, from also from Baghdad and stuff like this came into our place, and we were like, okay, now we probably all around the world.
Oh, okay, okay. It's very cool. You know what's neat about I love about like discovering independent film or people making films all over the world is that I had a filmmaker in here in Atlanta, Georgia, and she had made this short film. What was really fascinating was the level of diversity of the actors because they looked real and they had the diversity of their ethnic backgrounds was so abnormal to here in America, where the mass media, like for instance, my daughter's been watching this MTV show. She's been binge watching Teen Wolf, which is sort of like this remake of the old 80s comedy film, but now it's a little bit more serious. But I was joking because they're like all these gorgeous white people, like white kids are, and there's the diversity is not quite there. Where you see independent films, you get to see sort of real people in that kind of sense. And I think what's interesting is like you're coming from Germany, but you have this enthusiasm from around the world. You have a unique point of view from your perspective of the world that is enticing, and that's why I think what makes independent film or independence in general so unique because you're not going to see that on a mass level. And I could see. I did some editing of some car shows a couple of years ago. We did so that was fascinating to see like how many people show up at these car shows and just how just in love with they are with the cars. And after you see it after a while, you can appreciate it. I'm not necessarily a car guy, but after editing a couple shows, I realized like that's a pretty nice looking car. Like look at that. Like you start getting like like really stoked about stupid things like look at that, air filter or something. Anyway, but let me ask you, what are your plans? Are you do you want to come to the States or you want to travel the world as a filmmaker? Are you going to get into some other types of films?
There are so much plans. The problem is, if you're a German and in Germany, it's really hard to get a foot on the ground. So if you're planning to make a film or got a really good idea for a movie, it's really hard to get a person um, to help you out with it. So in Germany, there are not that much people like in America for helping you with the VFX and all kind of stuff. And also, you don't have the big range because if you go to famous TV places and tell them, "Hey, I got a story. It's like this and that. How about that?" They're like, "Okay, we can do it in German." But for everyone who ever seen a movie, the most German movie are crap. They are like not even as good as an American TV show.
Well, unless you make, gosh, it's fascinating to hear the barriers or the challenges that you propose to you. It'd be interesting because I know that I was talking about foreign pre-sales. It's actually funny because years ago it still happens today. You might get a film that's made where it's half of it's funded by American funds, but they got most of their funding from like a company, private partners that are from Germany or something like that. So one of the caveats in the film, the screenwriter and the director have to change the story a little bit because, like, okay, the it doesn't matter. You have to have a scene where they're filming, someplace in Germany, and these characters have to speak German. I don't know how you're gonna fit it in the script, but you gotta just do it. So you see that sometimes where there's kind of like this. It feels like a pseudo international feel, but it's because of the economics sometimes. And I was wondering, actually, for your end of things, I could see something where maybe you partner up with a high level sort of car, let's say car dealership or somebody who could benefit from like, do you remember years ago when the internet really kind of kicked off? BMW obviously made those great BMW films like Clive Owen and stuff like Clive, was it Clive? Oh, yeah, Clive Owen, and that was fun because it was like these little mini Hollywood movies. But I could see where you can take something and you're like, hey, what you're looking for is somebody to be a patron of yours, where you can like, but they get the benefit of it if you can do a lot of good exposure for whatever the product they have, or maybe it's a specific car show. But as long as you're able to sell sort of a different creative spin on it, so then you can bring more of a storytelling narrative to it, but you're selling in the world of say that car show or whatever it is. So it doesn't have to be like a straight this is the car show and welcome here, but it's more like you can have your creative liberty license and so on. It's a tough sell, but you can be more specific to that kind of person. It gives you a chance to expand that way, and then if you have an opportunity to expand on a uh, worldwide stage, you can, because it's like I know like on YouTube, I don't know what it is, but I can't get enough of these stinking Russian, car cams. I don't know. I mean, they're so crazy. I just posted one on Facebook just recently. A guy's riding his motorcycle, crash into the back of this car, and he does a flip, and he lands on top. You saw that one. I mean, it's like I don't know what's going on in Russia, the driving and those car cams, but somebody's going to put a compilation together, and I will totally watch it because it's like, what the heck? Anyway, I don't know if that's something that could be of use, or something maybe you've already thought about, or what the realities are of kind of approaching it that way.
It's a good plan. The problem is if you're starting to get up to bigger car dealerships, they got a person who made this, and they don't change it. It's like a German traditional. So if you got a person who you're gonna make good movies, you keep that person. You don't change it and try maybe something other, something better. They don't mind. If it work pretty good and you don't show them the paper like you have a studying in VFX or something, you're totally gone. That's the problem. They don't even watch your movies if you send them something. They only say, do you get the papers? Do you make your study? If you don't do this, you're gone. And that's the point in America. You can reach nearly everything without some papers or something. You show them something, and if they're like, okay, it's nice, the guy behind this knows what he's making, I try what he's planning to do with my company or something, then they invite you. But in Germany, they won't.
Interesting. I wonder if you could do something where I'm just saying, if this is we're just literally just coming this up the top of our head. Something like where you can find like a private owner of like a special car, somebody who loves their car, and you can say, I would love to make a little movie or a series of movies about your car. And hopefully there's somebody who, because what you're trying to do is leverage that in terms of the interest to getting the financing so that you can make your films appropriately. So you can hire necessarily if you need to build out a visual effects team to do, a few shots here and there, or just have it so you can up the quality. Obviously, how does the crowdfunding work for you guys over there in Germany? I'm not familiar with it. Does it have a different laws or different or even, is it even available?
It's available, yeah, but it's nearly impossible to get something. So if you do not the straight way what Germany wants to have something like this. It's really, really hard to get money for crowdfunding or something. It's really, really hard. So
Interesting.
it's probably easier to get the
Yeah.
ah, the jackpot in LA or something. Wherever you go, it's easier to get their money for getting it in Germany. So if you don't make a movie, for example, like bullying or drugs or something, they won't pay anything.
You know, it's interesting. I think you could do like you kind of touched upon it there. Say you have a project and you strike up a working relationship online with like another Hollywood, somebody in LA or in the States that wants to produce something with you via, remotely. Because you can imagine somebody in the States that says, "Hey, we've got this. This is our welcome to our crowdfunding campaign. You know, this is Alex. It's Alex or that's right. Your name Alex, right?
Yeah,
Yes,
Alex.
so Alex. So this is Alex, and he's coming to you live from Germany, and then we could maybe you show off like all these exotic sort of locales or what you're going to do with your kind of give a little travel log. Because if it's an American crowdfunding and they see sort of this like international approach, what it is you're using your producing partner here in the States to handle the initial fundraising, you know, so that way you have that market, but you're advertising and utilizing sort of the exoticness of being in Germany and taking advantage really of the resources you have in front of you. And then, like I said, if you're doing, say you want to do something about some cars or whatever like that, there, like you said, there's a lot of car enthusiasts here in America that you can really hone in on that targeted market. And say you're like, hey, I'm making this, action film. We're going to make this horror film, but look at all these cars we're featuring, you know, and or whatever it is. It's like, so how people are like, oh, that's cool. I'm down. I love that type of car. Oh, you know what? You should get, if you can, try to get this type of car, or you definitely got to get a scene in the Autobahn because a lot of people in America, are like, I want to drive that. You know what I mean? So whatever it is you got to find from your audience, it goes if you can highlight that into your crowdfunding campaign. And then here's the thing about to think about in terms of crowdfunding campaign. In the world of online entrepreneurs or business people and marketers, they do a thing called like a product launch. And so crowdfunding sort of follows that same paradigm, meaning that um, when you do your crowdfunding, I had mentioned this before, but I think that you can even try to budget in your own profit, meaning that you do your budget, like you need to raise X amount of dollars to make your project, but go ahead and add another couple zeros to that or whatever it might be, so you already build in a profit. Because in the world of business, they do things like this, like, hey, you customer, uh, I think you have this problem, or you have this problem, or I'm asking all these questions, or you have this problem. I think I can solve it with this product. He goes, if I create this product to solve your pain or solve your problem, would this be something you'd be willing to pay for? And then if you get this interest, versus this dialogue going with your customer base, and you're offering this solution or you're offering this experience with your art, then what business people do is like they get a pre-sales, and that's exactly what I was talking about earlier, which is the foreign pre-sales, which is like you're coming to these foreign distribution companies saying, this is my package for this film. I have all this stuff lined up. Is this something worth something to you that you'll pay? Give me a promise note that you'll pay for it once it's done. And they'll say yes, and sometimes up to the amount of $2 to $3 million worth. Well, the same thing can be done on a customer base, because say you get 1,000 transactions, and people say, I would totally pay $100 for that. So you off the bat get $100,000, and you haven't made anything yet. So if you go ahead and make your project for like $25,000, the people that gave you $100, they don't care because you've already just sold them on the value, not the price. You sold them on the value that you're going to get, and not necessarily the price. So you finish it, you deliver it to your audience. That's the same. It's the same principle as what's going on in the film markets, which is Hollywood producers are only trying to sell it to a distribution company. They don't even care if the film does well. They're just trying to sell it so that the producer gets their fee of like $500,000. Because when they do that line budget, a film's budget, the above the line cost will say the director gets this fee, the actors get this fee, the producer gets this fee, and the producer only gets this fee if he's, finishes a film, sells a film, and he secures that distribution deal. He might not see anything in the back end. The distribution company might take it and hold on to it for 25 years. But as long as that producer and the director gets their fee, it's like getting paid, for like, you're going to work, X amount of weeks on this project and you get this fee. And then you're done, you get your money, then you move on to the next project. So as an independent like yourself, doing a crowdfunding campaign, utilizing it in the same principles as the Hollywood pre-sales guys do, is, you ask the question, or you start that dialogue with the type of customer or the people that might be car enthusiasts that would love to see a film, a unique, special film, however you want to create it. And you say your an American counterpart who's your producing partner, generate the interest. You sell the sexiness of what Germany is all about. It's the exotic world that the American audience is like, oh, I got to get there one day. You sell that to them, and you sell them a problem, and then, like I said, you have to just figure out what your metrics are. If you can get like 1,000 people to buy in at like $100 a pop, and if you can make your product for a lot less, then you've already built in your profit, you already built in the production budget, and everybody wins because the audience, your value, they get what they want because they believe in the value. And the thing is you, instead of just because you can raise $100,000, doesn't necessarily mean that you want to make a $100,000 product. You may want to just make a $10,000 product and take those pre-sales and invest it back into marketing so that you can supersize it later. I think there's sort of a percentage in terms of business, like only 20% of effort goes into the actual product creation. So that would be the equivalent of making the film, and about 80% goes into marketing. So, and marketing doesn't have to be an ugly, boring thing. It'd actually be very, very creative. This could be all your bonus materials. This could be everything you can to discuss, more of the world. This could be the transmedia part of it, So that's something for just thinking about your enthusiasm and your success already. Selling DVDs, like you said, you were able to sell the DVDs at a higher price point at a very specific audience that you were able to get, and so the return was very good. I think that's the danger right now in terms of digital direct download or something like that. We're seeing 99 cents rentals. We're seeing $2.99 rentals. Maybe $9.99 is something you buy for a film, but now $19.99 is sort of the threshold of like what anybody will pay. So if you can break through that $20 price point and offer something more valuable at a $100 price point, then you don't have to worry about so much of getting like 10,000, a million people to see your work to even make any money back. You can just focus on just getting like 500 or 1,000 people to pay for a higher price point, and that might be a lot easier to deal with. And so again, it's sort of, you would make a lot more money that way. Not say everything's about money, but in terms of being responsible and trying to be that producer part of it, and it's always a challenge with the creative part, isn't it? So anyway, so that's me rambling, but something to think about in terms of anything you're venturing into.
Yeah, it's the point is, it's hard to get the right people in America, for example, to talk with. So in Germany, you don't need to talk with anybody because everyone is like, it's more than 10 euros. I don't want to pay it. So they keep the money really, really, really close. They won't put it anyway or somewhere else. That's the difference between Germany and America. In America, you go to some person, tell them, and they are like, okay, it's nice. I can give you, for example, X $100 for investing. For if you show some commercials from my parts or something in the video, and then you can be free to start, for example. In Germany, it's only everything with about, I give you the parts for free, you make a commercial for free, that's it. If it's going around money, Germany is not the best point. If it's going for an Autobahn to go on the limit, that's the best point, but that's it.
Well, I think you kind of hit hit on something there, which is you said you've recognized the barriers, the difficulties working in your country that are not necessarily the same as you see in America. And so I think that the key for you is like finding that partner, that working partner here in America that you can build that plan. Because like I said before, I think you have something of value in terms of being living in Germany, being a German that you can show a different world to us. And if you could, we could figure out almost like a travel guide. It's like as people in America again are want to be attracted to that world, so you don't even have to worry about selling to your countrymen. It's like, no, I've got an American business partner that I've developed a relationship with, and like whatever you do in terms of like, say you find somebody you're going to be working with here in America, um, you can do something as simple as a general agreement, like before you start any work. Like, so it's just a one piece of a one sheet paper that clearly says like party A, party B, and this is what we're doing. Let's just sign some sort of agreement so we understand going forth that if anything else that needs to be more detailed, we have to create another type of agreement. You know what? When we're done, I'll make sure to get your email and I'll send you some sample forms, actually, because it's like, I think it's worth. You have access to the internet. We can try to help you find somebody who might, be of the same enthusiasm as you, and see a partnership of something like that. Because I know for a fact to be awesome to work with somebody to be like, oh, uh, they're they're located in Sweden or they're located in Germany, they're in Spain, and we're gonna get all this footage shot over there, and I don't have to travel, and then maybe we could combine it with some of their U.S. footage or whatever it is. We can get really creative about that. And you were talking about the visual effects world. Um, we can figure out like maybe one or two artists that might just want to jump on a shot. Sometimes people are like, if hey, you're blowing something up, let me blow something up for you.
So, what do you do for a living the whole time? I just ran over on Google with your Hangout with some filming stuff and clicked in it. So I don't know you as a person or as a channel. I don't know what you're making or what Hangout I interrupted. I don't know nothing right now.
That is awesome. Okay, so what happened was I run this website called Film Trooper, and the idea behind it is to help independent filmmakers become entrepreneurs. And the simple concept there is like taking what online business people and online marketers are teaching around the world. These are people that are making a living anywhere, all over the world, but they're working online. And there's some very proven successful tactics and strategies that online business people and marketers use that have proven very well across any industry. So I thought to myself, like, I've been following this for years, and I'm very inspired by them. That I go, let me take what I've been learning and then apply it to independent filmmaking. So, but when I call it independent filmmaking, I really feel like Film Trooper is sort of this um, is meant to be like a soapbox for those independent filmmakers that are not of the Hollywood circle. They're not working in Hollywood in that respect. They're not even working in the independent film, uh, film market world. This is like the uber independent filmmaker, the backyard filmmaker. These are people all over the world that have access to some camera and some other audio gear, and they have gear, and they're making films, and they want to know how do they sell that film online, and or how do you make a sustainable living out of it. So that's really what Film Trooper is about. And then this Google Hangout show, Film Marketing Fridays, was designed to sort of just be a conversations piece like we're having right now. I just wanted to open it up to the world to just have discussions about film marketing in the world of independent filmmaking. Because my thought was the film production is no longer a barrier because anybody can make a film because of the tools, the cameras, the editing, everything is so inexpensive but so good, And then film distribution of the last 2 years or so is no longer a barrier. You could take your film that you make and you could pick any one of these different direct distribution platforms and get your film put up, and they have the interface in place where customers come to the site or come to your website and easily click, put their credit card information or whatever it is, and they can watch it, and they could use it watch it on their iPhones or their smartphones and throw it up to their TV, or use the digital media players like Apple TV and Roku box and that kind of stuff to watch your film. And so the customer has the same experience. They can worldwide, they can get access to your film. So that's no longer a barrier. So what is the last barrier is being heard above the noise. Because if there's so much content out there, how do you, stand out? How do you, make your money back? How do you make a living doing what you love, which is just making films of all sorts? And so that's what Film Marketing Fridays was created for, was to have a discussion piece and trying to figure out real tactics and real strategies that the uber indie backyard filmmaker can apply, because I didn't really see that in a lot of the different spaces that we're looking at in terms of the blogs I read. It's usually about like the film festival darlings, somebody who's been in the Hollywood business for a long time, but I was looking at ways like, wait a minute, there's a lot of great internet marketing lessons to be learned that could be applied to your independent film digital product. And so that's sort of this discussion here. So today's hangout was to discuss this concept: will Netflix, rip the heart out of international pre-sales, and what does that mean to that world of independent film that relied so much for so long on securing those types of pre-sales to fund their projects? Where are they going to fund, their projects? And so our discussion together about your crowdfunding suggestion was simply to say, look, you have the greatest access, because if you are a car enthusiast yourself, you can reach out, with the right strategy plan to other car enthusiasts and figure out a way to create your project. Again, it doesn't have to be like a documentary. It could be a horror film, but as long as it has some unique angle that appeases that core audience that may be car enthusiasts, you can build in your crowdfunding platform basically a product launch sequence that allows you to raise enough money to make your product, but also build in there a profit, just like business people will do. They're like, hey, I'm just asking, if I build this product, will you pay for it? And you have enough people say, yes, I'll pay for it, then you already built in your profit. And so that's the concept of today's episode, is really to think about those types of things. So I don't know if that kind of helps. And I am up here in Portland, Oregon, way over on the West Coast. I was in Southern California all my life. We moved up here about 4 years ago, and one of the reasons was I always felt like I could make films anywhere and make a living anywhere. So I actually do make a part-time living up here as an actor and sometimes model. Usually the model is the before model. If they're going to use some guy who's going to eat a lot of cookies, that's the kind of model that I am. I won't take my shirt off. If I take my shirt off, it's like the before guy. Before the after guy is the guy with the ripped abs. That's not going to be me. So I make a part-time doing that, and I also do I make money freelancing. We just got off like this animation job recently, and video production and so on. But my focus 100% is the last few months has been Film Trooper, as I'm trying to build this up as a useful, very valuable resource for independent filmmakers around the world. And so that's been my focus. So I hope that kind of sums up. You're like, okay, who's this guy?
Yeah, it was like I was reading like filming, and then you completely got me. I was like, oh, okay, it's interesting. Let's go inside and look how much people are talking or what he's talking about. And it was really interesting to hear all the different stuff, also from other side, not even from the totally lost side that I am the whole time. Yeah, it's really interesting. I will start reading on the page some more information pretty soon. I don't know if you're closing the live hangout, if you will stay here for a while or completely close it afterwards, or.
Oh well, I plan to. we're actually moving to this new house, and so as soon as we get settled into like the new house, and then I plan to use like every Friday. I want this to be a regular thing. So,
Hmm?
and I wanted to get a chance to utilize Google Hangouts for the power that it can be, which is have multiple filmmakers on at any given time where we just have discussion. So I would love to turn into a place of um, real world discussions and really trying to figure out how to solve some problems. It's almost like creating a impromptu meetup or a mastermind group. People coming together and we're sharing this idea, and we could do it virtually. We could do it around the world. And the cool thing about Hangouts is that you can still show visuals, so it becomes almost again like a loose webinar. Like if you go to sometimes you'll see online like sign up for this webinar and in an hour will teach you how to do this marketing tactic or whatever it might be. So this is sort of a loose form of that. So that's as we close up here. Usually I run these hangouts about an hour, but this is a unique situation where you just chimed in. I thought it was great, and so this is exactly what I would hope film marketing Fridays would become. Is something just somebody go, hey, I'm here, let's talk. So yeah, so the cool thing is that we do the hangout and it turns into a YouTube video, right? So then it becomes evergreen. It just exists out there. So somebody later on might stumble across this, but it might say maybe a year later they stumble across this. And then, say you're on the show or you're here with me and somebody sees your progress and like you're from these, get-togethers, it helps steer your project where you need to be, or somebody gets introduced to you by this, like, hey, I saw you talking on Film Marketing Friday. Let's talk. I'm a huge car enthusiast and I definitely want to get to Germany or whatever it might be. You guys might connect or whatever it might be. So those are the types of things I hope to see transpire with this whole effort with Film Marketing Fridays. I don't know if that helps clarify it, but yeah.
Of course, if you want to, I can try to publish Film on Friday a little bit more in Germany, like also Film Troopers, so you get more like
Oh yeah,
German films on the page. It's no
yeah.
problem.
Here, I'm gonna shoot you my email so you can email me and I can send you some other stuff here. You should let me know. Do you see that come in?
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, give that a shot. I gotta wrap it up here because I actually gotta still do some moving tonight. We got our big house move this weekend, so there's still a bunch of little loose ends I gotta take care of. But it's a pleasure, super pleasure to have you just stop by. And like I said, I'll follow up with you later in the emails. And I love to see some of your work especially the DVD that you said that you were making, that you sold, and hear more about that story. That sounds really really interesting.
Maybe if you're removing the live part of the Hangout so we can talk off
Yeah,
air for a second.
yeah. I'm gonna stop the broadcast and let me finish up this real quick. Um, I always do this. Hold on a second. This goes like this. Okay, here we go. Hangouts. Come here. Okay, so we're gonna wrap up Film Marketing Fridays for this August 22nd. And as a lot of you know, I offer this free gift over at freegearguide.com. This is in a free equipment list of everything that I use to make a feature film for $500 with no crew. And so you can check out more about that at freegearguide.com. And yeah, thank you so much for tuning in. I'm going to have this little off-air conversation with Alex from Germany. It's super fantastic for everybody stopping by. Thank you so much, and we'll catch you guys again next Friday.